Hello, this is me again, Frodo Finds. Welcome to my closet. Today's video, I'm going to be watching Steven Crowder. He was at the Piers Morgan show or podcast, whatever. He was talking to Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh, mind you, is from Illinois. Actually, I went to some of his rally back in 2016 when he was a right-minded Republican. Is that what you want to call him? Right-minded? But then again, he decided to run against Trump. He tried to run against, he tried to put himself into the presidential election. That's what he was trying to do. And he started distancing himself from Trump. He actually, Wallace had a radio show here out in Chicago. It's AM 560, and all of a sudden he just switch, and I think it's because it has something to do with, he's always hanging around with the Democrats in Illinois anyway, so he kind of got brainwashed, so his brain is not all in there, because he's always like yelling and doing all this stuff. He's trying to make everything about himself, and he's full of himself. That's what Joe Walsh says. Now he's just totally on the left. Well, I don't know if it's totally, because he still says he's pro Second Amendment, but for all the wrong reason. Anyway, go follow him, see what he has to say. Judge it for yourself. Judge him, or see it for yourself. That's what I'm trying to say. See what he has to say. I mean, I used to follow him on Twitter. I used to follow him on Facebook, everything like that, his podcast. And, since 2020 or 2016, whatever, was that 2016? No, but anyway, I stopped following him. I don't need to listen to that nonsense. But anyway, Steven Crowder, he is. He's the, he's the one I think started the Prove Me Wrong, if I'm not mistaken, and then Charlie Kirk and all of that. But I've, he's the one that is holding a coffee mug, out there and speaking in public. But I don't know if he actually went to colleges, but I think he did, but not that was not his primary audience like Charlie Kirk did. But anyway, so in this video, Steven Crowder predicted that Joe will equate Charlie Kirk's assassination with the Hortmans, the one in Minnesota. You're gonna look it up. If you're not familiar with that, you're gonna look it up. Look them up. And then 3 minutes later, that's what stupid Joe Walsh did. Let's listen in.
Provably untrue.
Melissa Hortman, the Democratic state legislator in Minnesota, 3 months ago, gunned down by an anti-abortion Trump supporter. Yes or no?
Wrong. How do I know? Because Vance Bolter, the man who did it, wrote in his letter that it had nothing to do with Trump or being pro-life. He blamed Tim Walz. And here's what you also don't see. Did you see anyone at the Hortman's funerals or vigils spitting on them? Or pantomiming, being shot in the neck? Did you see anyone celebrating the death of them gleefully?
Yes.
Did you see so many professors doing so, showing children a snuff?
No.
Really? Point me to one.
No. Yes.
Point me to one person spitting at their vigil. Let me guess, you're going to go to Mike Lee?
Utah Senator
How do I predict
Mike
everything
Lee,
you say all the time?
He is so predictable. That's why. Joe Walsh is so predictable. He is taking that argument. He's taking his argument, the very core of his argument right now is coming from the DNC, coming from the liberal Democrats. That's what he's getting it from. His mind somehow has been brainwashed, but the very core, the very thing that he hated it. Because that's what he was saying in his radio station back in the day. And now he became the very thing, Joe Walsh, I'm talking about Joe Walsh, he became the very thing that he hated.
Joe Walsh will say that this is an overreaction. He said that yesterday. He doesn't understand why this is a big deal. He will place blame, as the left and the spineless right does, for all of this on Donald Trump, conservatives, rising figures, and the rhetoric for temperatures in this country. That is provably untrue.
It's not a prediction.
After a Democrat was assassinated in Minnesota, you also did not see the Democratic Party and the left declaring a war on the right, saying that they did it, the evildoers did it. This is a battle between good and evil. You didn't hear any of that when a Democrat was assassinated. We should condemn both, Pierce, condemn anybody celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder. Condemn it. And we should also condemn anyone using.
See how he's like, Joe Wallace is like, he thinks he thinks he's the word, he has the word of wisdom, which is, you gotta condemn the both side. But if you look at the numbers, right? If you look at the numbers, who's doing, let's just say, okay, for simplicity's sake, right? For simplify things, 10 political, incident. I don't know, the last 5 years or something like that, right? So narrow it down to who's who and who's on the right and who's on the left. Just 10 of them. Shooting, violence, whatever, right? Was that a 5-on-5, Joe Walsh? Was that a 50-50? Was that a 5? Dude, you're a moron. I used to look up to you, man. He turned into a, what do you call that? Like MSNBC, another moron. The Morning Joe. He turned into that. Morning Joe was actually also a Republican. Claimed to be a Republican. Just like him. And then, all the things got into their heads. Maybe the Democrats that he used to hang around with is like, oh, you're it, man. You're the one can take down Donald Trump, and it got it on his head. He's like, yes, I can mobilize people. I can talk. I have a radio station. I have a platform. Yes, sir. I am the one. And then the Democrat, created a monster. But he's not even relevant, dude. I don't even know what's the last time I've heard of him. Joe Walsh. Yeah, this poor guy, dude. He's I don't want to get into I know his personal things, and I don't want to get into that because it's, like I said, I used to go to his rally. I used to go to see him and do things here in Illinois. So, but this is the first time, I think maybe in the last 2 years, first time I've heard him, this is because of the Crowder bits, and I see him, I was like, wait a minute, is that Joe Walsh? But anyway, so
Charlie Kirk's murder to declare some war on half of the country, and this is a battle between good and evil. Both of those reactions are dangerous and despicable.
He will say that statistically more violence comes from the right. That's provably untrue.
I could argue, and I would argue, but I won't hear that there's historically been more political violence coming from the right. But suffice to say, I think you and I, Pierce, would agree. There's a history of. Hey, Stephen, let me finish, man, please.
Please argue it. You can't just make a vague claim and not substantiate it. He has been stating for days that the shooter was, in fact, not a leftist, and we didn't know. That's provably untrue.
Yeah. From the moment Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I said, we don't know who did it. And once we found out who did it, we don't know why he did it. So let's all wait to figure out why he did it.
But we did
yesterday.
Stephen, I remember you saying that he sold his soul to Trump before the body was cold and criticizing his wife. Let me finish with this. All of this is by design so that the left and spineless right can make this conversation about conservatives responding to the cold-blooded terroristic assassination and gleeful celebration thereafter of a young man who did nothing more than sit down at a table and allow anyone to speak their opinion. And I know what it's like because I was in that spot. I started it, and Charlie cited it as inspiration. If I could change one thing, and I do believe that I'm partially responsible for this. I failed people. I've had to do a lot of soul searching. When I did change my mind and started in 2016, the idea was, hey, calling the left on their bluff, civil dialogue with anyone to the tune of billions of plays and hundreds of hours and it got increasingly violent. And what I didn't tell people, I told people out there, go do this on your own campus, have these conversations. I advocated for it. And Charlie took it to another level. He was unbelievable at it. What I didn't do, I didn't tell people about the threats because I didn't want copycats.
Okay. They all know that. I'm pretty sure Charlie Kirk knew that because he had security details. What they actually did, it kind of, they missed the thing. That's like, I've been saying that before. Even when President Trump's rally, what are all the angles that you are missing? I mean, they have, when I went to President Trump's rally, I mean, they had people in the woods, right? They have people in the woods standing in there, they're looking at the thing, security, to all the secret agents, whatever. The only thing you're missing is from the top, right? Aerial view, that's what you're missing, right? They should be installing something that on the top, looking out, I don't know, maybe a blimp, a drone, or maybe those big old things that they put the American flag, put camera up there and just get an bird's eye view, right? I mean, or better yet, put a Secret Service right on those top of the thing. But I know that the person like Charlie Kirk and all that, they're not going to be able to afford that, How about a volunteer? How about whatever? I mean, you can't just stop things and be scared of this people. You can't stop what you're doing and be scared, and because that's what they want. I mean, they said it themselves. They want to keep doing this. What happened to Charlie Kirk? So the speech that, or the freedom of speech, will be controlled. And then and Joe Walsh and all of them, they pretend that they're not advocating for, to get rid of freedom of speech. They want all the freedom of speech to themselves. That's what they want. And don't get me with all of this firing with Jimmy Kimmel is killing the freedom of speech. He can say whatever he wants. Start his own whatever that he has to answer to himself. Start his podcast so he can say whatever he wants in there, right? But if you work for a network, if you have bosses, if you have people above you, and they do not like what you said, they do not like what you did, your behavior or whatever, they have the freedom to distance themselves from you, to fire you, or to kill the contract, per se. Anyway.
Cats. I didn't tell them about terrorists from Yemen through Sweden showing up in East Grand Rapids. I didn't tell them about concrete milkshakes. I didn't tell them about my tires getting slashed, about people trying to firebomb my car. And maybe if I would have picked up the phone, maybe if I would have used this megaphone to tell people it's real life out there and the left wants you dead, maybe Charlie would have had a fighting chance. Oh, you're still here and you're still watching this on YouTube?
Well, like I said, Crowder doesn't have to beat up himself over that. And I doubt his, maybe, I don't think, he doesn't have to have that guilt. Things happen, people are violent. There are the bad people out there, that want to harm you and your family. The only thing you can do is, trust God to protect you. And with that, you have to arm yourself to protect you. You know what I mean? So, and if it's your time, your time. That's how I see it. Anyway. All right, let's see. I'll see you guys next week. Have a good weekend.